Hey Angels and Biscuits, CSDL here, and today's video is going to be my April and May wrap-up video, as well as a small channel update. I think I will start right away with the channel update because it's nothing major. I just wanted to let you guys know that I am going to stop doing TBR videos for the time being. I'm just finding it a lot less stressful, not pre-planning out what I'm going to read. But I will continue to do wrap-up videos at the end of the month or the beginning of the next month, so that will remain the same. So, getting right into the wrap-ups, we will start with April because I never got a video up for that. So, what did I read in April? Well, first we had Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Sea of Monsters, the second book of the series. Then we had the first book of The Mortal Instruments, a Shadowhunters novel, The City of Bones, and I got through maybe half of The Count of Monte Cristo. Honestly, I DNF'd this. I tried really hard. I even bought the audiobook, which I almost never do, because this is so big and chonky and I don't like carrying it around with me, so I thought maybe if I listened to it, it would help, but I DNF'd it, and I will hopefully finish it one day, but it was very hard to get through for me. I am normally not one that's bothered by really excessive flowery language in books, but there is so much in this novel that could honestly be taken out and the novel would still be amazing. It's just so much that even I had a hard time getting through it. If you're interested in a classic, I do not recommend starting with this one. Work your way up to it. Start with smaller classics or ones that are less wordy. The story is wonderful. There were parts of this that I absolutely loved. For example, when Edmond Dantes comes to see his father, like he returns home from sailing, and he comes to see his father, he thinks his father is ill, and his first question is, "Father, where is your wine? You look ill. Where is your wine? Like, the wine is medicine." Did I love that line so much. And the entire portion where Edmund is in prison and he is talking with the Abbé, that was really, really good, I thought. I loved the connection that they formed and the stories that the Abbé had told Edmund, and it was great. There was a lot of good stuff, okay? There was a lot of good stuff, but the good stuff is also surrounded by all this fluff and unnecessary information, and it does make it hard to get through. So, The Count of Monte Cristo, if you're prepared for that, go for it, but if you want to try a classic, I just don't recommend starting with this one. I do recommend giving it a try, just maybe not for your first classic. So, next I'll talk about Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters. So if you saw my last wrap-up about the first book, The Lightning Thief, my biggest complaints were the children protagonists, children as heroes, children solving all these problems that apparently the adults cannot. I still have all of those same concerns and problems with this book. It is very hard for me to get behind Percy as a protagonist because he is so young. I like that all of these fun Greek mythology elements in there, I love that. And some of my favorite characters aren't even the main characters. Like, for example, the Cyclops that is Percy's half-brother, I absolutely loved him, and I even kind of loved the Cyclops that they had to fight when they got to the Sea of Monsters. He was totally a fun monster. I don't know. I'm liking them better than the children. And the antagonist, Luke, still kind of loving him. I don't know where this is all going with Luke exactly. but I love him. And on top of those issues that I've had with it, it is also fairly predictable and formulaic, but most middle grade books are pretty formulaic. But as that is really common in middle grade novels, I absolutely do not hold that against the Percy Jackson series. I think I did enjoy this one a little bit more than the first one, so I am looking forward to the others, as I'm hoping that this trend will continue. Did enjoy that this one put a little bit more struggle with Percy and Poseidon and their relationship. Also, the ending did have a fun little twist with bringing a certain character back into the mix, and that is certainly going to cause tension for Percy, I'm sure, in later novels. So I am a little bit excited to explore that situation with the little twist that happened at the end, and I am still looking forward to fleshing out Luke's plan, like what's he got going on, because right now he's up to something and I like it. I'm rooting for Luke. I don't know why, but that's where we are with Percy Jackson. And then lastly in April, we had City of Bones, the first of the Shadowhunters novels, and the first in the Mortal Instruments series. So, this one. Very good. I am currently so obsessed with Shadowhunters. I have a whole reading vlog dedicated to City of Bones, so I will link that in the description and maybe up in the little corner there. So I won't talk about this one a ton, but I will talk about it a little bit. So, as this is the first of the Shadowhunters novels, it introduces us to Shadowhunters themselves, to the downworld, to the vampires, the warlocks, the werewolves, all of that, and it's seen through the eyes of Clary Frey, for the most part, who is the 16-year-old protagonist. And because they're so young in these books, because I've watched the show, and they aged them up in the show, and I really like that. So I thought because they were so young in these books that I would enjoy them a little bit less. So after actually reading City of Bones, I did not feel that way. I actually rather enjoyed the young characters. Like, I mean, they had moments, obviously, where I was like, oh, really? Come on, you guys. But overall, I rather liked them. And Clary, for the most part, impressed me. I was very pleased with how sassy she was. She was sassy to Valentine, the main antagonist. Like, she was not having any of it from him, and that was wonderful. Jace, in the book, I do appreciate how sassy and arrogant he is. It makes for a very comedic character, and I kind of am really enjoying that aspect of his character in the books. Like, it gives a lot of moments a reprieve, a quick little laugh, you know, it lightens the mood in a lot of cases. We only got a little bit of my favorite character of all time, Magnus Bane, but he is still wonderful. Alec, my other show favorite, not as much a favorite right now, but this is where he's introduced. We don't get a lot of his growth until later on. He does have a lot of issues going on, so I'm not surprised Alec's not my favorite yet because of everything that goes on with him. But overall, really enjoying the Mortal Instruments, and if you want to see my full thoughts on this one, you can go check out my reading vlog for it. It is rather long, I warn you now, but that is where I talk about all the details, spoilers, and whatnot of the City of Bones. So I also read 3 books in May. First, we had A Man Called Uva by Fredrik Backman, which, wow, this one was wonderful. We had the second Mortal Instruments book, The City of Ashes, and then we had a classic, Peter Pan. I will start with Peter Pan because it was probably my least favorite. The story itself was good. I liked it. It was a lot darker than all of the modern, you know, like the Disney and all the modern things with Peter Pan, really. It was a lot darker. Tinkerbell is a little sassy brat, and I kind of loved it. Hook was wonderful. I loved Hook. And I'm pretty sure they were hinting at, like, he was inferring that he is really Blackbeard. Like, his real name is not James Hook. But I loved Hook. I loved Tinkerbell. My biggest issue with Peter Pan is the writing style. I thought it was kind of odd and it just didn't click with me. And when I was reading it, it just didn't really flow well for me. Like, when you're reading something, it didn't go smoothly for me. It didn't make a lot of sense. It just, I don't know. It was weird, and it was very hard for me to maintain interest in the story, despite the things I liked about the story. And it had a rather sweet, bittersweet kind of ending. Bittersweet on Peter Pan's part, but sweet because, you know, Mrs. Darling does a very sweet thing. But the writing style, the way JM Barrie wrote this, made it very hard for me to get through, even though this is such a tiny book. Like, if I don't click with your writing style, I am going to have a very hard time reading your book, even if I love the story. And the story is very good, very heartwarming, also very dark. I love that classics are rather dark. I just love that. But, again, the writing style really turned me off. On the bright side, it is rather whimsical. It does have a very sweet ending. This would definitely be a good classic to start with if you are looking to get into the classics. I know a lot of other booktubers love Peter Pan, and for me, the writing style, that is a personal, you know, opinion that will not apply to everyone. So if you are looking for a good classic to start with, I would definitely recommend Peter Pan, or as I always recommend, The Picture of Dorian Gray, but they are both shorter. They are fairly easy to get through. And if you're not as picky with writing style as I am, you will love it. Or maybe you would love how it's written. I don't know. But yeah. So we had Peter Pan. Not my favorite, but next I think I will talk about A Man Called Uva. Uva. So this is by Fredrik Backman, who is a Swedish author, and I have been wanting to read one of his books for a long time because one of my all-time favorite booktubers, Murphy, has talked about him so much. It has just really gotten me so curious about Backman, and this was a buddy read with a friend of mine, and I am so glad that we read it because, gosh, was this wonderful. Like, a book has not brought me to tears in a long time, but this one brought me to tears. And, okay, so Backman is a wonderful writer, but props also needs to go out to the translator because this was originally written in Swedish. So I would like to just give a shout out to the translator. I will find his name really quickly. Henning Koch. Just want to give him a shout out because he did an absolutely fantastic, wonderful job translating this novel. And I cannot wait to read more Backman. He is very focused on his characters. Like, this one is pretty much just focused on Uva, but by the end of it, you feel like, I mean, even before that, but like throughout this whole book, you feel like you know him, and the more you get to know him, the more, you know, your heart kind of breaks for him, and he's a very relatable character. Some things don't make a lot of sense at first, and you're kind of like, Uva, why are you being such a grump? But then the more you get to know him, you realize, oh, that's why. And Backman also tends to tackle heavier themes and heavier topics, like, for example, Uva explores grief, loss, and depression, and it's a very, serious topic, but I think Backman does something very well in his books where he maintains the seriousness of the situation, but he also finds a way to keep it a bit lighter. It's not so dark, doom, gloom, and depressing. Like, there's humor, and it's not as dark and depressing as you'd think it is, with the topics of grief and loss and depression, stuff like that. He does a very good job balancing that out and keeping it a little lighter, so I was very impressed. He also gives personality to, like, even the cat. Like, the cat is such a relatable character when Backman writes a cat. You couldn't see the kitty cat down in the corner there. Like, he is wonderful at writing characters, and he never truly describes what Uva looks like, but you know what he looks like. I don't know how to explain it, but when you read him, right? Like, in the way other people talk about him, the way he acts and talks, you get a picture in your mind. So for me, I just want to throw it out there. Like, with the way this Uva talks and acts and, like, his mannerisms and everything, if any of you have watched the show Psych, he totally reminds me of Detective Lassiter as a grumpy old man, because they share a lot of similarities, I think, in their stubbornness and their kind of standoffishness to people. Like, it's great, but you don't have to have a physical description of Uva to know him and to have a good picture in your mind. And even the characters surrounding Uva, the ones that kind of insert themselves into his life, are really well done, and you can see parallels between them and other characters from Uva's life, and it's beautiful, and this story is beautiful, and it's bittersweet, but it's also just, it's good. It tackles hard, heavy topics, but in a lighter way, so you're not overwhelmed. It's just, it's wonderful. The writing is wonderful. The way he writes, the way the translator translated his writing is wonderful. Like, if you have not read a Fredrik Backman book, please do. Please try one. It doesn't even have to be A Man Called Uva, but this was his first novel. So if you want to check out the first thing he wrote, that is this one. But he has quite a few others if you want to try something a little different. But they all seem wonderful, and I cannot wait to get more of his books and read them and enjoy them and have my feelings attacked, but in a good way. So yeah, A Man Called Uva. And finally, we have the second Mortal Instruments book, City of Ashes. So this one, like City of Bones, I am doing a reading vlog for. It's not currently finished being edited at the time this video is going up, but when it is up, I will link that in this video as well, so you can go watch that. Which means also, like City of Bones, I won't go too much into detail on this one because I have a whole video dedicated to it. But I am still loving the series. We're getting to see a little bit more of that teenage angst and teenage nonsense that tends to irk me a smidgen in YA novels. Not a deal breaker yet, but I mean, it's to be expected in a YA novel that the teenagers are gonna be teenagers and do dumb teenage things. Overall, the story is progressing nicely. We are learning about the Shadowhunters, the world, the downworld, at a pretty decent pace. I already do know a lot from the show and Googles and all of this stuff. And I am still really enjoying the main antagonist, Valentine. I think he is an excellent villain. Like, he is well written, he is manipulative. I am pretty sure he's a psychopath. This one, we got to explore a little bit more of the characters. For example, Alec, we got a bit more of him. I'm kind of happy we did, because I absolutely love him in other books, like in the Red Scrolls of Magic, the Eldest Curses series. Alec is wonderful, and I want to know when he gets wonderful, because right now he's still not that wonderful, but we're starting to get to see more of him and see more of his interactions with his family. We've met more of the Lightwoods, and it's, you know, becoming very clear why he acts the way he does, why he is the way he is. I mean, I already knew why, but like, I get to see it now. I really feel for Alec because he is not in the most ideal of situations, but I know things work out for him in the end, so I know things will get better for him. Jace is still interesting for me. Like, he's still not my favorite, but I do love how he continues to be the one to point out the things that need to be pointed out or need to be said, because no one else has the guts to do it. But Jace is like, no, hold my beer, I've got this. And he will blurt out what needs to be said, and I really appreciate that. That shouldn't even be there. But yeah, so I am really excited to continue this series. I am loving the Shadowhunters books. Even if they are teenagers, I am still loving it. I wish they were a little older sometimes, but it is still a series I am really enjoying, and I can't wait to continue. And the drama is really picking up. Continuing this, one of the main plot elements from the first book was Clary's mother being taken by Valentine, and she put herself in this magical coma. She cannot be woken up. Magnus can't do anything. I don't think the Silent Brothers could do anything. So in this book, she's still in the magical coma, but towards the end of it, Clary meets someone who tells her, I can help you wake your mother up. So that will be a big thing in the third book, and I am looking forward to that. So that will be an interesting plot continuation, as well as following Valentine in his evil, dastardly ways. Also, something I am loving with this series as a whole is the change in perspectives. It tends to switch between different characters. Most of the time it's like Clary or Jace, but we do get a few others here and there, and I really am enjoying that. It's well done. Sometimes when you change perspectives a lot in a book, it's jarring and it doesn't feel very natural, but Cassandra Clare, I think, is doing a pretty good job of doing that. So that is something else I really like about the series. My only critiques or things I am not too big on are essentially how young most of the characters are, excluding downworlders like Magnus, but even he appears young. You know, he doesn't look a day over 19 or 20, but he is like 400 plus years old. And the fact that, you know, Clary and Jace, they're not siblings, but they currently are under the impression they are siblings because Valentine has told them so, because Valentine is Clary's father, and he did raise Jace as his own, but Jace is not his biological son, but he is currently lying to everyone and telling them that they are related. And Clary and Jace are kind of struggling through this I have feelings for you thing, and it's exploring, you know, that sibling love. So there is this really big drama struggle between Clary and Jace, like, is it okay if we have those romantic feelings for each other. And at first Clary was like, no, and Jace was like, but maybe. And now Jace is like, no, and Clary's like, but maybe. And I don't really like that there's any but maybe it could work things in there. But I mean, I am all for books tackling weird and difficult topics. It's just not my favorite of the weird and difficult topics to tackle, you know? And I would just really love this all to get cleared up so all of that drama can just disappear and go away. But I don't know when they actually find out that they are not related. They almost had a chance. They almost had a chance with the Inquisitor and Imogen Herondale because she... Imogen... I don't know if I should say what I was about to say because that's kind of a spoiler, but these books are so old now. Do spoilers matter? Skip ahead a little bit, but here we go. Little spoiler. Imogen Herondale, the Inquisitor for the Clave, dies protecting Jace because she, I don't know if it was a scar she saw or a birthmark, I don't know, but something she saw made it clear that Jace was her grandson because Jace is her grandson. And she died protecting him, and she never got the words out that you're a Herondale or you're my grandson, you're Stephen's son, you're... I don't know. I was like, we almost had the chance for Imogen to clear this whole thing up, and then she dies. And I was like, no, because now we have to go through another book of Clary and Jace thinking they're siblings, and it's a little frustrating. But overall, I am still loving the series, and I can't wait to continue on and see where this goes, and then we get to read the rest of her books, like The Infernal Devices and The Dark Artifices and The Last Hours, and there's just so many. But then I will get to see all those new characters that everybody loves that I know nothing about yet. So, yeah. City of Ashes was good, but yeah. So, I would definitely recommend giving the Mortal Instruments series a try, or the Shadowhunters novels in general, or checking out the show if you don't want to read. They also have a television show. It is not a carbon copy of the books. Just bear that in mind. They do take a lot from the books, but it does not follow it exactly, which I actually don't mind for once. But yeah, so there's also a show. If you want to check the show out, I will plug the show and I will plug the books. So, do both. Read the show and read the show. Watch the show, read the books. Join me in the obsession. So that is all I had for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this video a little bit, and if you did, you could totally leave a like, a comment, or subscribe. I would definitely appreciate it, and I will see you guys next time.